Good morning, everybody. I hope you woke up on the right side of your bed today because I'm amped to get started. We're just starting a little bit late because we were waiting for a few people to join us. So let's get started. My name is Agashiba Dameni. You can call me Aka. If you have any questions, pop them in the chat box. We will be taking care of the chat box and making sure that your questions are answered. And yeah, so let's get started. So this is part 2 of our Working Woman 101 webinar series. This series we basically came up with because we had so many requests to just give alumni CV skills in a CV workshop, and we thought, why not turn it into a full-blown series to help the alumni, not just get a job, but stay at that job. So the last week's session was the CV bootcamp. Today's session is interview preparation, as you know, and next week we will be doing the Navigating the Workplace webinar. So today's session is basically geared towards helping you prepare for your interview properly and talking about how to dress appropriately for an interview. And yeah, so the program for today, I've just introduced the series, and now Alice is going to move on to introducing the members of the panel for everybody who did not attend last week. And then at 11:15, we'll have our breakout rooms. This will be an opportunity for you to take a deep dive into the role plays that were done and ask more questions about the interview and any other things, maybe share your screen and show what you're wearing and ask, is this okay for an interview? I would like each group to nominate an individual who is not a mentee to just report their learnings when we reunite to the main meeting room at 11 o'clock. And then at 11:25, we're going to give our closing remarks and thanks. And then in the chat box, I'm going to share a link for you to join, for you to fill out a Google form. And that will be the webinar review form, which will also contain another form, a link to another form that you can sign up for next week's event. So Alice, please take it away.
Greetings, everyone. I'm Alice. I am the G4G Alumni team lead. So I'll be introducing our industry experts today. First up, Patience Mutlani, who was with us last week. Patience has a broad range of expertise, including learning and development, assessment, strategy development, marketing, and communications. She has held senior corporate roles in marketing, learning, and development in organizations such as SAB, Standard Chartered Bank, and Standard Bank before joining Joint Prosperity. Following a decision to shift gear into assessment and executive coaching, she's a registered industrial psychologist, an ICF coach, and is passionate about leadership development, particularly on the African continent. She firmly believes that the development of human capital is central to the growth of the continent. Next up, we have Elaine Pulo, who was not with us last week. Elaine is a retired HR practitioner who worked in the credit information, short-term insurance, FMCG, banking, retail, hospitality industries, as well as the public sector over a period spanning 33 years. She worked for Dun and Bradstreet, Nestle, Allianz, Aegis, Adcon, CNA, Nedbank, the Road Accident Fund, and the Table Solutions Group, where she was employed as HR director. Elaine is currently a life and performance coach. She also serves as the FABSA 50 and Beyond South Africa NPO board, is a director on a women's investment company, Mawavune Women's Investment, a trustee and partnership of the Table Solutions Group, Tihani Trust, and a trustee of the Wagoner Edstone Worldwide South Africa Development Trust. Elaine is passionate about working with individuals and teams on a personal and professional level in order to motivate them to achieve their goals. She believes that all human beings have the capacity and wherewithal to achieve whatever goal they set for themselves. So we welcome Elaine to this week of the series. And next up, joining us this week is Karima Shah. Karima is a G4G mentor with an interest in issues affecting women and youth. She aims to empower and uplift others through sharing her skills, knowledge, and experience, as she would be doing today. She holds an executive MBA, having completed a dissertation on membership and gender diversity. Karima has a background in marketing and product management and is currently an independent consultant supporting organizations in identifying business problems and recommending and implementing solutions. She additionally facilitates business skills training and teaches yoga part-time. Karima has worked for several multinational organizations and industry leaders, including Singapore Airlines, Emirates Airlines, television production company, Edimal Shine, and MTN. In roles at Edimal Shine and MTN, she managed multidisciplinary teams and was responsible for recruiting the best talent for the teams. During her tenure at MTN, she worked on graduate development programs, defining the skills needed for her team, recruiting and coaching graduates. Next up, and last but not least, we have Val, who was with us last week. Val is the Director of Sector Programs at the African Leadership Academy. Val was born and raised in the Western Cape, South Africa. She studied through the University of South Africa, where she completed a Bachelor of Administration in Development and a postgraduate diploma in Marketing Management whilst working. She subsequently completed her PGDIP and MBA through Gibbs Business School. Val has traveled extensively, living and working internationally in senior roles in the manufacturing, construction, F&B, and technology industries. Val's varied work, experience, and skill set has allowed her to develop strong leadership skills and create a deep understanding of strategic business operational requirements to meet and align with various stakeholder needs. She's passionate about the African continent, people development, and tech. In alignment with this, Val is also a director of Project Girls for Girls South Africa, an organization aimed at empowering young women, and the director of the Segela Foundation, which is focused on supporting and enabling local communities. And I may have missed some of our panelists, my apologies. We have Nobile Shope, who was also with us last week. Nobile is a human capital business partner at Old Mutual. She gained her HR experience working for organizations such as Deloitte in the management consulting environment and Straight in the financial services environment. Mobile has a background in industrial psychology and is passionate about people development and thus immerses herself in HR projects that enhance business efficiencies. With that said, she has been involved in change management projects where she has been the change champion for rolling out a performance management system. Mobile has worked on revamping an organizational onboarding program and is currently working on a project that will help enhance the management recruitment experience. She is also a G4G mentor who appreciates engaging in activities that have positive impact on women. She is a bibliophile who enjoys traveling and imparting her knowledge. With a fairly inquisitive mind, Mobile is an advocate for lifelong learning and believes that with every experience comes great growth. And then we have Monet Matopa, who was also with us last week. Monet is an established professional, highly conscientious, results-oriented with a high drive to meet objectives. She holds a bachelor's degree with majors in industrial organizational psychology and industrial sociology from Wits University and offers more than 15 working years experience in talent acquisition and management. She has developed exceptional competencies in finance, business acumen, strategic agility in the HR management field with the information, digital and communication technology, mining and metal, consulting and banking sectors. Monet is the managing partner at MSX Resources, a business that offers human resources consultation services and strategic workforce planning, recruitment, and selection services. She serves as an independent non-executive trustee at Hitachi Construction Machinery South Africa. She is a board member at the African Youth Assemble, a community-based non-profit organization that offers Western classical music training and development to the youth based at Diepkloof in Soweto. And she's a member of trustees at Computer Aid International South Africa, an international non-profit organization with an objective to enhance educational experience by donating computers, IT equipment from corporate and individual sponsors who help bridge the digital divide. Monet is inclined with continuing to learn the ropes, keeping abreast the market, and advancing key interests and passion of human resources in building the future talent in today's rapidly evolving environment. So these are our industry experts that we have today are going to advise us particularly on interview etiquette, the do's and the don'ts. So back to you, Arafula.
Did you do patience or should I do that?
She did it.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I missed that. So yesterday I spoke with Elaine and she suggested that we start off with a role play of Patience and Elaine doing an interview in order to start off our discussion on interview preparation. So if you could take it away.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Aga. Patience, are you on? Yes.
Yes, I am.
Unmuted. Yes, let's go.
So I think it might make sense if I could just ask the other panelists. Elaine, I can't see you, so maybe we need to ask the other panelists to just turn off their videos for now, and then if I can see you, might help.
You want to see me?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna knock knock.
Come in.
Hi, morning. I'm here for my interview.
Oh, you must be Patience Motlana.
Yes, that's me. That's me. Yeah.
Oh, you're here. Okay. Did you find the place without any problem? I hope.
Oh, gee, I had so many problems. I got lost. I've been driving, I think probably an hour and a bit. Whew, and gosh, it's hot now. I just need to just cool down a bit. Do you mind? I'm just gonna sit. Okay, thanks.
Go, carry on, make yourself comfortable.
Thank you, thank you.
So I see from your CV, if you don't mind, we're just going to get into the interview. Unless you'd like
no
to
problem. No.
Would you like to have some water, perhaps? I see that you.
No, I'm fine. I know it was hot, but no, I think let's just start because I'm already late and I need to rush back. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for showing an interest in our job, which is the HR admin for our human capital division.
Mm-hmm.
According to your CV, you have more than 3 years of experience in a similar job. Can you tell me about your experience and where you did this?
Oh, gee, actually, if I think about my experience, so you're talking about me having more than 3 years. No, absolutely. I've been working for quite some time now. And, the reason now I'm just wanting to move on because I find that in this job, the boss is just something else. And I just think that, no, I mean, even though I've got so much experience, they don't really respect me. So I think let me look for something else. It might be better for me. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, but the question was, can you tell me about your experience in the jobs you've been doing?
Okay, so I mean, you just let me just check my CV. Let me just see. So I was working at PEP before, and then you can see there the kind of jobs that I was doing. I did quite a lot. I was really quite busy, And then I also left there because, I just thought, well, it wasn't the right environment for me. I've got quite a lot of experience, and I think people don't really see the value, or they don't appreciate how much I can add to the job. But yeah, I do have a lot of experience. I think, yeah, it's more than, it's about 5 years now.
Okay. The 5 years didn't come through on your CV, but anyway, one of the requirements of the job is that you must be familiar with a number of pieces of legislation that have to do with employment. So one of them is the BCEA. Do you know it? What's the latest update on the BCEA? Do you know?
The BC, sorry, remind me, the BC, how much? Sorry?
The BCEA. Basic Conditions of Employment Act.
Okay. I think there's, if I remember, there's something about what was it again? Oh gosh, today, my mind. It was about I think it was about something about the earnings. I think if I remember correctly, it was something about the earnings threshold. I think something like that. I didn't really take that much note, I must be honest. But yeah, it was something like that.
Okay, what about the threshold though?
Oh, gee, no, you've caught me there. I can't remember actually.
Okay, and then moving along, and also the other one would be the most important one is the Labor Relations Act. Anything you want to share about what you know about the Labor Relations Act?
That one is quite complex, eh? I mean, that one is quite a long one. I mean, there's so much involved there. I mean, we would need much more time than time we have now to really explain that. But it's you know that it's something that government has sort of decided how do we work. So there's quite a lot involved there actually.
Okay, and what about the EE Act, the Employment Equity Act?
Oh! Now you remind me of Julius. When they get involved, then everything just becomes difficult. So that one, and I mean, us blacks, we really are struggling. So yeah, no, even that one is quite complex. It's really quite complex.
So going back to the first question, which you didn't answer really, I just wanted to get a sense of your experience in terms of what is required of the job. Do you want to go there? Let's try again on that one.
Sorry, when you say my experience, can you maybe just have a look at the CV and then tell me which part, and then I can at least explain that part.
Okay, can you give me an example of where you were asked to juggle many other responsibilities at the same time? How did you do that, and what was the outcome?
Juggling, I tell you, as a woman, that's exactly what we are good at. So, for example, this morning I was late because I had to, my child this morning just refused to wake up. And I've got to get the child ready. And then my helper told me the taxi was late. And, today was just a mess. So I was juggling. So that's a good example of juggling because I knew I had to get here. I had to get the children. I had to make the scuff team. And I mean, there's so many things that you're constantly just busy. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure yourself, you juggle quite a few things as well, where you are.
Yeah. Yes, I suppose as a woman, I'm always juggling, but I'm talking about juggling responsibilities at work, where you are given more than one task.
Yeah, remember I was telling you that where I am right now, I mean, with all my experience, you find that the boss, he wants so many things. I even have to go and fetch his dry cleaning. So, I mean, actually, no. And then on top of it, other people want coffee, other people want this, and no, I juggle quite a lot, actually.
And you also make coffee at work?
I have to make coffee. Sometimes no, there's so many things that you have to do.
And you feel comfortable with doing it?
No, of course not. I mean, really? Why must I be making coffee? I mean, if I check the job description, there was nothing about coffee there.
Okay, talking about the job description, one of your other responsibilities in this job will be to prepare HR documentation and make sure that all employee files have the right documentation So have you had experience in doing some of these things in terms of your admin job and making sure that the contract, making sure that, excuse me, Ms. Mutana, I'm not done yet.
Okay, all right, okay, sorry.
And making sure that all, the letters of employment and everything that is required, the medical aid information, everything is in its place in every employee's file.
No, that I'm very good at, actually. That I'm really good. You can call me Mrs. Ndlovu. She'll tell you that I'm excellent. When it comes to my things are really, really in order. I know there's, you can come and check my filing. I'm good. Typing, no problems there.
Okay. Right, thank you, Ms. Motlana. We've gone through a number of areas that I really wanted to explore with you. Do you have any questions for me at this stage?
Yeah, actually there are two questions. So the one, I didn't see the salary information. How much are you paying? Because definitely, I'm definitely not going to come for less than where I am. So how much are you paying? Then also I want to know when I start, how long does it take to get promoted?
Ms. Motlana, with regards to the salary, that's the information we will give at the time when we are ready to make an offer. But at this point in time...
Sorry, when are you going to do that?
It's when we've interviewed all the 10 candidates that we have on up to interview.
Gee, you're going to interview 10 people?
Yes.
No, really? That's quite a few.
Okay, and with regards to your second question, well, let me just say that we interview enough people to make sure that we're making the right decision. So that's what we decided to do.
I'm sure you can see I'm so good. I don't even know why you're going to waste your time interviewing so many people. I mean, we could sign the deal now.
Unfortunately, Ms. Motlana, that's not how we do things. Anyway, with regard to your second question about when you'll be promoted, we have processes within the organization that take into account people's experience, their performance, and when we review all of these things and when promotions come, yes, people are asked to apply and sometimes are approached to apply for specific positions. So there's a process within the organization that will happen. So, and we always make sure that we take care of our star performers. So that's that.
Okay,
right.
Then. Thanks.
Thank you so much. We will hear from us about the next step. If you don't hear from us within a week, well, in fact, we will not contact you. We will contact you and let you know about the next step if there is a next step.
Okay, thanks, Thank you very much. Thanks, Let me run.
Thank you. Bye. Don't get lost. Don't get lost.
Okay. Wow. Yes, Muratile, that had.
I've been trying to look decent and strong, but yes.
Okay.
So let's get started on discussing or dissecting this interview. Val, what's your take? What went wrong?
You're on mute,
Val. You're muted.
Patience, you were absolutely brilliant. Oh my word. But what was scary to me is that a lot of that was not actually has happened before. Honestly, in many interviews I've been on, and even though you were acting, we see a lot of what you did. And so, I mean, you had the examples of everything, from the talking about salary in advance before we even not knowing what you're talking about, applying for a job, not having the skills you're supposed to have. Gosh, there was so much. There was so much. They're arriving late for the meeting, being flustered, telling you, the person who's interviewing you, that you're not capable, that you're not ready, that you don't, all of that. Your casual way of speaking, there wasn't a good way of relating to the person that you're speaking to, not having proper questions to ask about the company. Wow, there was so much. I'll give the others a chance to talk as well.
Monet, do you have anything to say about this interview?
Okay, that was a brilliant act. But however, it defeated the whole purpose of an interview meeting. You know, the candidate has to demonstrate their capabilities, their talents, dedication, and experience. But from that observation, everything was thrown out. There was lack of preparation, and you know, it was way unstructured. Similar to what Val has mentioned, you need to win the confidence of the interviewer. And in this case, the
Yeah. Hello?
We're
We
losing
can't
you.
hear you.
I think we've lost her. I think she's
Oh,
dropped
we've
off.
lost it, yeah.
Yeah.
you know, the
sorry.
candidate was nothing close to that.
Yeah.
So I leave it at that. Okay.
Yeah. If you could just repeat what you said.
Yes, so what I mentioned is that it was a brilliant act. However, it defeated the whole purpose of an interview meeting where, you know, the candidate needs to demonstrate their capabilities, their talents, their education, their experience. And in this case, there was none of that. You know, it was thrown out. The candidate's place is to win the confidence of the interviewer. And from what we observed, she didn't achieve that. You know, there was lack of preparation and absolutely no preparation, nothing whatsoever. So I'll leave it at that for the others to comment.
Karima, how do you demonstrate your capabilities without sounding like you're bragging, but still, you know, putting yourself forward as a decent or probably one of the best candidates?
So I think it's something as women we do struggle with. I had an interview recently and the interviewer said, please don't say we when you're talking about what you did. So I think it's as women, we just generally default to trying not to be boastful or trying not to come across as bragging. So I think through preparing your answers and really highlighting your skills, you can do this effectively. So if you think about it in advance, preparing how you're going to answer and how you're going to position yourself, you can think about whether or not this is sounding boastful. I just want to say though, Patience and Elaine, that was brilliant. So I was cut off and struggling to reconnect, and I connected just at the time where you were asking Patience about the various laws. And I was so confused because I was thinking, why is she behaving like this? Why is she prepared for this session? So for me, always preparation is key. So just knowing what you're interviewing for and what skills and achievements you are highlighting that's relevant to what you're applying for.
Thank you. Monet and Val and Karima mentioned that we should highlight our skills and, you know, make that link. Do most companies, how do you basically draw that link between the job specifications and you and your CV without sounding like you're reading not a pro and con list, but a comparison list?
Yeah, I think it really just boils down to the preparation, how you prepare, understanding the job specifications, and really just teasing out what your CV looks like ahead of the interview. It then becomes a lot easier for you to highlight what is really aligned to the role in particular that you are being interviewed for. Don't underestimate the power of preparation, honestly speaking, because even if you have your CV and you have applied, sometimes you forget you're applying to a lot of things and you get called in for an interview. If you don't look at your CV ahead of the interview, then you don't know what you have there. And I think with Patience that came up as well, she was going through her CV because the interviewer asked her about that. And you honestly don't want to find yourself in those kinds of situations where you have to go back to your CV to think about, where did I say that, you know? So like, honestly, go through your CV, look at the job specifications. What do you bring to the table? Where are your strengths in line with that position? And you can then go crazy after that. Thank you.
Mom Elaine, you were the interviewer.
Yes.
What is the typical interview structure that you would have expected going into this interview with?
Sure. Firstly, my expectation of somebody who's serious about a job is that, firstly, they would have done a recce of the place they're going to, even if it's to check on the internet or even drive there to see where the place is, so that they don't get lost on the day, because that can happen. Of course, if we're interviewing virtually, she must just make sure that her system is working. And, you know, yes, if you've got load shedding, unfortunately, there's nothing you can do. But if it's a good day and we're not being load shedded, you make sure that you know how to connect to the net, and you are ready when the interviewer is on, so that they're not sitting there waiting for you. And you, even in that setting, you walk in flustered and you're sweating and you're fanning yourself because you didn't prepare well. I mean, that says a lot about you. And also, one of other things that caught my attention when she walked in, she was wearing one earring. And for me, I'm saying, oh my goodness, what kind of woman is that? She's wearing one earring to the interview. Did she lose it on the way, or is she just a careless person, or she just doesn't care how she looks? So already it's saying something about this person. The other thing was she wasn't answering the questions, which then means she's hiding something, in my view. Why is it that she's not answering the questions I'm asking her about? She then tells me about other things and how bad other people are where she works and blah, 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 blah. And I never got anything that said to me, this person is the right candidate for the job, or she even has the experience that she said she had in her CV. So, and also some other little things, that we look at as interviewers. I know sometimes it might be said to be too westernized, but that's a protocol of how you do business. When you walk into the room, you don't just come in and sit. Okay, you come in, you greet, and then you wait, and somebody will say to you, please take a seat, because you don't even know where they want to place you. Because, as interviewers, we place people strategically where, we can communicate, better. Now, she could have been sitting on my left, and now means I must turn my seat and go like that, or she could have been sitting here, but in the meantime, I wanted her there. So, it's common courtesy to just sit and wait, and then you will be told where to sit. What's the other thing? Now, the issue of the salary, and the promotion in the first interview, some people will tell you that, what's wrong if I ask about salary? Okay, let's leave the promotion on the side, but the salary, it's a very touchy issue, subject, because if they didn't put it in the advert, some companies will put it on the advert and tell you what it is, but some companies don't do that. It's something that they will discuss right at the end when they are about to make you an offer. Will it work if you say it up front? I will say, I'll hazard a guess and say 9 out of 10 interviewers will be put off by that, because that's the first thing you put on the table. And especially if you haven't even convinced me that you have the wherewithal to do this job, and now already you're talking about the salary. So needless to say, if I can say that now, and hopefully I'm not taking anybody else's thunder, needless to say, this person was never going to come back for a second interview if there's a second interview. She's never got, she's just cooked a goose, basically. So just too many wrong things. And we did it purposely to show that these are the things that interviewers have to contend with. And you can really mess up your prospects by, as Nobile and Monet and everybody else and Val was saying, you need to be prepared, and preparing is critical. And again, what Nobile was saying, you probably are applying for many jobs and you can't remember exactly what did I say for this particular one, because your slant will have been to highlight more of the things that are required for this particular job. So it's not like a sausage kind of machine where you just send out your CV anywhere. Your CV has to be prepared in such a way it talks to what is required for the specific job. I'll leave it there for now.
Patience, the star of the show. I was wondering, what are the typical interview questions we can use to prepare for our interviews?
So I think, thanks for asking the question. I think that if you go on any website and you just said CV interview preparation, they'd give you a whole list of questions. But the typical questions, you're going to be asked about, tell me a little bit about yourself. And that question itself is very important to rehearse, because I'm sure many of you have been to weddings where the father of the bride is asked to give a speech about the daughter, and the daughter at this stage is probably around 28, 30, and he starts at about when she was 3 and goes on to and when she was 4, and then she was 5, and you start looking and he's 20 minutes into his speech, he hasn't gone very far. So I think the important thing is when you ask that question around, tell me a little bit about yourself, it's good to rehearse that response to that, because as everybody has said, you tailor your CV for different situations. And so you need to search yourself with respect to that job, what's important for you to convey. So please don't start and then I went and I did my grade 1 at what primary school, and then I did. So be prepared for that question. Tell me a little bit about yourself. You're going to get, and it depends. If it's a competency-based question, you're going to get questions around that. Specific competency-based questions. You're going to get questions around why inevitably somebody's going to ask you, why are you interested in this particular position? And I think then you need to have an answer for why that particular position appeals to you. They may speak to specific aspects of your experience. Someone asked last week when you've got gaps in your CV, someone in the interview panel might ask you, so I noticed that you weren't working for the last 18 months. What did you keep yourself busy with then? What were you doing? So I think you need to prepare your answers for that. And I think the long and short of the story is whatever you've put in your CV, be prepared for somebody to question the integrity of that information. And as we've said, and everybody has said, make sure you've looked at the CV. You cannot get to an interview. And I was telling Elaine yesterday that I had an interview. In fact, it was not an interview, but it was an assessment where I obviously will make the recommendation in terms of the role. And the individual kept doing the same thing. As I asked a question, she would say, oh, let me just check that. And immediately I asked myself, is this your own CV or is it somebody else's CV? Because if it's your CV, how come you don't know the contents of it? Surely, you can recall where you've worked. You might get your dates slightly wrong, but you should surely recall. And she went and did the exact same thing when she went to the company. As they questioned her, in fact, this time she went a step further. She took her laptop with. And as they would ask her questions, she would say, oh, give me a second. Take it on the laptop and then answer the question. That is a complete no-no. Okay, yeah. So that's a bit of a roundabout answer, but that's basically, there are lots of, yeah.
Can I just tell you a funny thing quickly? Aka, can I just tell a funny joke? Well, depends. About when you ask about the gaps in your CV. I was doing an interview, I was a member of a panel when I worked at Nestle, and I was sitting with I being the African woman and 2 white males. Okay, there's a reason why I'm telling you this. But anyway, the candidate was a young African gentleman. And when one of the people asked, so we see there's a gap in your employment. What were you doing between this period and that period? Do you know what the guy said? I could have fallen off my chair. I was just fucking around. Sorry, pardon my French. No, I'm saying, pardon my French, but he just said, I was just fucking around. Now, maybe in everyday speak, when he's talking to his friends, When he says, ah, I was doing nothing, he's just fucking around. It didn't mean literally that he was doing the deed. He just meant I was just messing around. So, you know, there are things, and it would be good if, I suppose, if you asked somebody, you know, when you're in your preparation about maybe language, or I don't know, but I don't know what you do with that one. Because if it's among your friends that's how you speak and you don't know any different, it's really a problem. Because you gotta say that, and of course, again, unfortunately, that just threw everybody out, and you know, everybody just said, no, there's no way. I mean, and I try to explain that no, it's just the way he speaks. It's not that he meant what he was saying, but I'm just putting it forward. What could one do in a situation like that to help people know how to answer questions? Yes, preparation is good, but your vocab and other things that are part of your arsenal, how do we tamper with that if it's already in your whatever? Yeah, as I say, it's part of your arsenal or toolbox. What do you do? What would anybody advise?
Val has her hand up. I think she'd like to tackle that and her initial input.
I think just to answer Elaine's question, I think an important thing here is to practice in advance. Speak, you know, like get someone you trust to actually run you through a process of, yes. I'm sorry for the noise in the background, to run you through the process. But I just wanted to say two things quickly before the lawnmower goes off, is that even though we can say Google answers 2 questions, please don't come in having like memorized those answers. Make sure your answers are authentic. I immediately know when someone's like, I've memorized this, this is what I'm going to say. The most important thing that you must do in these interviews is be sure that you are authentic. And the other thing is you can really do in your interviews is use the story. Tell your story like you do with, like we teach you in Girls for Girls. You know what really connects with interviewers is when they remember something that you've told them. There's something that you've said that is fundamentally connected with their hearts. So tell a story, but tell it not like Patience was saying when I was in grade 1, when I was in grade 2, not that kind of thing. A similar thing to what we say to our mentors. Tell a story that is relevant to the actual subject and to the job and to what it is about why you want this job and why this job or this company agrees with you or you want it so badly. And then lastly, that really, really important thing, asking important questions. Show them that you care. Show them that you've researched. Researched. Show them that you've researched the company, not read the website. Anyone can read a website. Show them that you've actually done some research into what the company does. And then secondly, make sure that you've done some research into the role. So exactly like the Patience didn't know anything about anything. She didn't know about the policy. Make sure that you've actually learned about what the role is actually about and what you can bring to that role. Thanks, everyone. Sorry.
Great. So we're going to move into the breakout rooms now. So Val, if you could please set that up. And you have 15 minutes in the breakout rooms. This is an opportunity for you to get started and ask more personal questions.
say, I don't know, is it okay to say, I don't know, because sometimes you actually don't know and you're not going to come back to it. Is it okay to actually say you don't know? I thought that was one of the things that stood out for me, instead of fidgeting around and trying to forge. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you actually go about that if you don't know actually?
I know, I understand. So I've had that where you just don't know what the answer is to the question. And it's okay for you to say, actually, I have not been clued up, or I'm not aware of that particular topic that relates to that question. And then just say that you'll probably do better next time, or you'll try and educate yourself better next time and would like to know more about it. It sounds better when you say you don't know, but you'll do something about it, as opposed to you saying, actually, I just don't know, and you leave it like that, you know? It's like, what now? How do we assess, or as an interviewer, how does an interviewer see that you actually have the drive to learn? Because that's what you want to put across as well, that you want to learn, you want to grow, and you want to, develop yourself. And this opportunity is for you because you want that to happen. So if you leave it as, I don't know, then we also don't know.
Exactly.
So that would be my recommendation. It's okay for you to say, I'm not aware of it, or I don't know, but you will learn more, or if possible, and they have time, they can educate you more about whatever it is. That would be my recommendation around that.
Fantastic. The other thing that stood out for me is, for example, when they asked about the experience, I think she talked about all the negative things, the bad things that happened, how she makes coffee, how she does this, how she does this and that. I thought she could have focused a lot more on what she has done, what she has accomplished, and focus less on the negative things, because I think it kind of gives off the idea that you carry this negative vibe. I don't know, and nobody wants to work with such a kind of person. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think being positive.
That's actually quite an important point. And I think it goes back to what we call constructive feedback. And constructive feedback is saying something negative, but you're making it sound a lot better than, actually, I just have a bad boss, Maybe the leadership style, my manager's leadership style is different, and we're still finding our feet. Very, very different, but you're actually saying the same thing, that you just have a bad boss. At the same time, you're not trying to badmouth your current employer. You're not trying to make them look bad. The interview is not about your current employer, it's about you. You need to show us what you bring to the table, and you need to showcase your potential as well. So when you start talking about the negative things that are happening at your work, at your place of work, then you're distracting the panel from the focus being on you and what you bring to the table and what you are capable of. And essentially just keep that in mind all the time, that the interview is about you. Yes, there's things going on around you, and yes, the employer might not be so great at the present moment. You're looking because you're unhappy, but we don't want to know that as interviewers. We want to know, what do you bring to the table, and why are you the best candidate for us to select for that particular interview? Uratile, I'll go to you, and then Makenzo after that.
Okay, so I want to know, like, how do you, like, when you talk about your work experience, how do you narrow it down to what the interviewer actually wants to hear? Because you could have a long list of work experience, but how are you selective of the work experience that you are going to talk about during the interview without narrating a whole life story?
Okay, so this is when the job specification becomes very important, because yes, you might have, for example, administration experience. You might be able to type minutes and do all of those fun things. But maybe all they want to know is how much experience do you have, firstly, and how is the experience suited to the role that you have applied for. And maybe they've emphasized that they want someone who's had experience maybe in payroll and stuff like that. So you zone it down into, what is the job specification? what do I have in line with the job specification, and how do I then bring that forward in the interview? If they say, because sometimes even in the job specification, they indicate that they want someone who's interpersonal or has great interpersonal skills and can build relationships quickly. How do you bring that out? It's not something that we're going to see on your CV, but what examples do you have, you know, when they start asking the competency questions or behavioral questions? What examples do you have that really does bring that out for them to see those kinds of things? You can either get it really wrong or you can get it really right. Unfortunately, there's no midway, because it's either it's you or it's someone else, you know, when it comes to the interviewing process. But please don't be lengthy as well in showcasing what you're capable of. Keep it simple, keep it compact, say enough for them to be informed and know who Uratile is and what skills Uratile brings, and really how those skills are linked to what we are looking for in line with the job specification, basically. So that would be my guidance around it. It does require, and I must admit that going to interviews is also practice. So sometimes you think that actually, because now I have a job, then I stop looking and I don't go to interviews. I personally encourage people going for interviews, because the more you get exposure to different kinds of ways of being interviewed, the better you are in managing your nerves, the better you are in being prepared. And you know, you remember certain things and you're like, hey, I was asked that question once and this is how I responded to it. Now I can respond better to it. So I also encourage you to just go get yourself out there and go for those interviews, even if it's not that you're really interested, but it's practice more than anything. I hope that helps already. Mikenzo?
Hi guys. My question is a bit is a bit similar to what Uratile asked, but now because I'm doing my final year, and when you go for interviews in firms and whatever, and I feel like there's not much that I've done as a person. So when they ask me, okay, tell us about yourself, I don't really know how to answer, like, what are the important things that I've done so far without having to tell an entire story of my whole varsity career. How do you know, like, highlighting the important things that you've participated in without mentioning irrelevant things, and also in a way that I don't sell myself short? Like, I don't know if that makes sense.
I get you, and it's quite tricky, honestly. I can relate, and I fully agree with you. You have no experience or no work experience, but you're potentially applying for maybe graduate roles or entry-level roles where they're not really looking for your experience. So then you start talking about, okay, what have you done during your varsity years? How have you involved yourself at varsity in certain things? You're currently part of G4G. How has that contributed to maybe showcasing your leadership ability, or your leadership potential? How has that linked to your drive to learn, or your drive to just get involved in community development sort of things? And it's a graduate position, but you're trying to show that you like to get involved in different things, but you're also trying to show the involvement and the value that you bring to the organization, as well as also trying to show that, yes, you are, of course, the right person for the role. So tell us a bit about yourself. What do you enjoy doing? Do you read? Do you play a musical instrument? These are basic things, and some people might think, actually, why is that important? It's important at entry-level positions, graduate level. We just want to get to know you better. What do you bring to the table? What kind of energy are you willing to grow? Are you someone that's demanding, so to say, and you really just want to grow very quickly, and you want to get the next promotion, and you are the right candidate because you know what you're doing? You don't know what you're doing. More than anything, you just want to learn, grow, and really just get experience. And also remember the aspects of being mentored, and that the opportunities that have come from you being mentored as part of G4G. Look at those things and how that incorporates into your ability to gain knowledge from other people, as well as how do you share that knowledge with other people as well. So there's a number of things that you can pull in. It's not about just your varsity life, and specifically your academics. Yes, academics is great in the sense that you can say, you know, like what you've achieved a certain grade in your third year, or you have a bursary because of your academics. Those are things that will make you sort of, again, showcase your ability to achieve and your drive to actually do well. But it's not the only thing that we're looking for. We're also looking to see what does Makenzo, what makes Makenzo different from an Alice, and what makes Makenzo different from an Uratile. Those are the kinds of things you need to just pay attention to when you're trying to answer that response, as well as remember your strengths and areas of development. It's not to highlight that you can't do something. The weakness is not for you to, it's not for you to downplay yourself, but rather to show that you are aware where you need to grow more and where you will potentially need support if you get the position. In your strengths, this is what you're bringing to the table, right? And this is what I have to offer. These are my strengths, and this is how I'm going to add value if I get this position. So just a bit of guidance here and there. It's not conclusive. There's a lot of ways of just highlighting certain things, but we want to know you, and we want to know you don't have experience. So tell us about you as much as possible without, going into too much detail as well. I hope that helps a bit.
Thank you.
Cool. Alice and then Christine.
So I have two questions. The first one is, what is the notion around piercings and tattoos in terms of appearance, in terms of interviews, right? Because I understand, yes, we are sort of moving away from the backward thinking and into the 21st century kind of school of thought. But at the same time, what is the reality on the ground? One. Yeah. And then two, so usually at the end of the interview, you ask, what questions do you have? So is it a good thing to actually say, I don't have a question? Or what kind of questions can you ask that will not put the interviewer off?
Okay, so with regards to tattoos and piercings, I go to interviews. This is not a piercing, just for the record. I go to interviews like this, and I've never felt like I'm being looked at differently because of this on my nose. But it's also not to say that you want to walk into an interview and your tattoo is showing here, like you also want to look decent. You don't want that to be the first thing that people see, because people notice those things. And you'd also be mindful of, if you have, people have some interesting piercings, and it's not to say, okay, now you need to remove your earrings just because, but be mindful of what you want to stand out for that interview and what first impression you're trying to make. If the first impression that you're trying to make is that I'm here and I really just want to grow and this opportunity is for me because I fit the culture for the organization, then maybe in that case, a piercing wouldn't help you in doing that, or a tattoo that's showing wouldn't help you in doing that. There's some organizations that are quite liberal in the sense that if you go into a marketing space, they don't care. They won't necessarily look at things like that. So you also just be mindful of things like that. And I see we're 30 seconds left, but I also just want to, what was the second point? Sorry, your second question.
When they ask you, do you have a question for us?
Oh yes, please do ask a question. You can ask about the person's leadership style. You can ask about the culture that you're going into. You can ask about the team that you're going to be working with, as well as asking more about the role. So what does success look like? If I'm doing well in this role, what does success look like? But don't walk away without asking a question, because it also has that, are you even interested? Did you even prepare? But don't ask about the values. The values most of the time are on the website. Ask about how do you live those values in the organization. You can ask complex questions that will challenge the interviewer and show them that actually this person is very interested in our organization and she wants to be part of this organization. So those are but don't walk away without asking any questions. That would be my recommendation. It's part of your prep. Have a question and don't ask a question for the sake of asking a question. If something has been answered already, don't ask the same question. Say, okay, thank you. You've actually addressed one of my questions, and then ask the next question. Prepare 2 or 3 questions, 2 or 3 potentially challenging questions that if they were posed to you, you would also feel, hey, you know what, this is crazy. Yeah, so that would be my recommendation around that. Christine, maybe very quickly.
Okay, thank you. Hi, ladies. My question is about being interviewed, and you've been asked a question and it probably are not responding well, and they try to tell you that that is not what they are asking. How should you respond to that? Thank you.
So apologize, ask them to clarify the question for you, because if you're not answering the question then you didn't hear it properly. Okay, apologies for that. Can I just get clarity around the question again? Can you repeat the question or rephrase the question for me and recover from it? You can always recover from things like that. And the one thing we also don't do that I want to look at the people that are interviewing you, look at the panel members, look at the body language. If someone is frowning like this and you're responding to a question, that says something, you know? Don't ignore the body language, because
so we're just gonna wait for everybody to come into the main meeting room. I don't think everybody's back yet. Oh, it looks like we are. Could a representative from Breakout Room 1 explain or tell us about one thing that they learned in the breakout room that wasn't mentioned in the panel? I know we nominated Tumelo and Larissa, so go ahead.
Okay, hello everyone.
Hi.
Am I heard? Okay. So from our small group, we elaborated more about how we present ourselves. So body language and the eye contact is very important, because with culture have an effect on mostly African, we are taught that all the people don't look at their eyes, but in a modern way, it is very important to look at your panelists so that you can pick up how they feel and communicate with them well. So, and the dress code, just to feel comfortable, it's very important to wear something that you feel very comfortable about, because you can't be sitting and being shaking around. So that's also very important. And also voice, to be audible. So we basically spoke about the body language and how we present ourselves and what they knows that we should do. And, you know, sometimes in interviews, they can offer you a coffee. So you should not drink the coffee with a spoon inside. It's very important. So yeah, that's the joke that we shared. So some of us didn't know, so it's very important. So yeah, that's basically what we spoke about.
Group 2, who did you nominate? Please unmute yourself if you were nominated.
Aka, can you just please maybe just acknowledge Margaret?
Oh, Margaret,
question easier.
Is there anything you want to say?
Sorry, no, I'm in group 6. I thought it was just random, so I'll let you go on to group 2. Thank you.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, so for group 6, which was led by Monet and Karima, it was quite interesting to learn how to answer the question on salary expectations. Basically, the response would be more like, I currently earn this much, and I am looking for a more competitive offer for this kind of job. Or you could actually log into www.payskill.com in advance, so that you try and find out, when you log in your details, you can find out you know, a suitable salary scale for you, so you're more comfortable answering that question. Otherwise, it's a very sensitive question, and you may actually get it wrong, and it may, you know, jeopardize the whole interview. That was quite interesting, but we also learned about exploratory interviews. Those are interviews that don't have job descriptions. So basically, you're being headhunted, and you're coming in to, be, basically they're checking you against what they're looking for, but without necessarily saying we're looking for A, B, C, D. So there was just so much. It was interactive, and it was such a short session. We wanted more time, but.
Hopefully next time we'll have more time. So There was no group 2 because there was no panelists. So group 3, was there a group 3?
I'll come in for group 3. I assume that's the team that was in room 3, right? Yes, so we spoke about how to tell your story, how to bring in a bit of your skills, why you want to move without the rhetoric from your CV, how to bring out your skills and why you want to move, how you're aligned to the role and say the organization. We also spoke about appropriate dress code and how you need to be sensitive about like the national cultures. For example, if maybe somebody mentioned how there was this all male panel and they just walked in with their pants and maybe the panel didn't seem to be comfortable. So you need to do a bit of research about the organization, about the culture, so that dress code doesn't take you out in terms of the perception. We talked about what time you need to get there for the interview. Give it about 15 minutes. You don't want to be there maybe 2 hours before and everyone is wondering what why you're not leaving the reception area. We also talked about the question of tell me about yourself, how you need to ensure that you bring out your skills, bring out maybe your interest and how you're best suited for the role, but also be as natural as possible and tell a compelling story. So that's the submission from room 3. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Zubeida. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. Group 4. Anybody
Hi.
from, yeah.
Yes, so group 4, we talked a bit about when you ask a question and you do not know the answer to that, how do you respond? And it's okay to say that you don't know, but also show that you're willing to find out more about that or learn about whatever it is that you've been asked about. And then also we mentioned a bit about when you're asked a question and then you kind of answer the wrong the wrong question, or you respond to what has not been asked. It's important to also look at the body language of the panelists, because sometimes you can be able to tell that actually what you're answering is not what has been asked. And if that's mentioned, it's okay to apologize and then ask the interviewer to, you know, kind of rephrase the question so that you can give it a go one more time. We also talked about presentation. Be mindful of what you want to draw attention to. Your hairstyle, if you come in with your pink hair, everybody needs to be focused on, you know, piercings and, you know, stuff like that. So do not draw attention to anything on yourself, on your body that you do not want people to be focused on, or that could potentially be destructive. So find something that would be comfortable for you and then comfortable for everything, for the panelists. So the focus is on the discussion and not on you. What else did we talk about? Yeah, I think that's more or less what we talked about. Also, how to respond to tell us more about yourself. Beyond your skills, they also want to know, you know, who are you. So it's okay to mention things that are not particularly in your CV. Maybe give an example. Maybe you play the guitar, or you know, you're part of like G4G, you know, stuff like that. It's okay to mention so that the panelists can know what you are about beyond your academic qualifications. Yeah, I think that's more or less what we discussed. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Samantha, you put your hand up and then you lowered it. Are you the representative for Breakout Room 5?
No, I just wanted to add on to what someone said. For my group 4, we also looked at the questions that you can ask at the end of the interview. Questions to do with the culture of the organization, how values are being implemented, the different panelists' leadership style, what success in the role looks like. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha. Representative for Group Breakout Room 5.
Hello. In our session, we spoke about how to approach an interview if, for example, you don't have the necessary experience required for the role, perhaps because you were studying and you're fresh out, you just graduated. So how do you approach that? And it was established that you want to make your intentions, your interests, your passions relating to the specific field or that specific role or the company known and understood to your interviewer, potentially what you could offer, what you could learn, and how that might be beneficial to the role that you're interviewing for. There was also a discussion about keeping your emotions controlled and not to be too emotional in the interview. And also it's okay to not, if you feel uncomfortable, it's okay to remove yourself from that situation. Yeah, that's.
Thank you,
that's
Jumi. I don't
just,
think
if I can just give context to that last one, this is quite, two of the girls raised important situations where they had felt completely disrespected by the questions they were asked by the panel or by the interviewer. And I just want to, because I think this is really important. I know that we all want to get jobs and we want to get work. But if you are in a situation in an interview where someone asks you an inappropriate question about your looks or makes a comment on your, on your personal, whatever it may be, persona, if you feel in any way uncomfortable, you are more than entitled to excuse yourself from that interview and walk out. Do not allow yourself to be treated badly because you want that job. And then another one lady gave an example of having been asked to stand up, asked a question. She was asked to leave the interview and then come back in because they wanted to talk about her response. That's also very, very unprofessional, and it's not okay. You have a choice. And the one thing about an interview, it's not only a one-way interview. It's also an opportunity for you to decide if you want to be working for that company or not. And the way the culture is shown in that interview is a way for you to think, is this where I want to work? Is this the kind of place that I want to be? Really, please think about that when you are going through any of those situations. Sorry to interrupt, Akka, but I really felt it was an important point to make.
No, thank you. Thank you. I think we all have this need to just please, 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 but then we forget our own standards. Patience, you have anything to say?
Sorry, I just wanted to add to what Val said, that it's absolutely important to realize that an interview is definitely a two-way process. It's not just the company that's assessing you or interviewing you. You need to interview the company as well. When she talks about culture, in the same way that we've said to you, make sure you get to an interview on time, I think it's also not okay for the interviewers to keep you waiting unnecessarily with no explanation. Some people find it's quite okay. They suddenly have an urgent meeting. They don't send anyone out to explain. You find yourself sitting at reception half an hour later, or you find yourself, you've joined a WhatsApp or a Google Meet or whatever call, and nobody joins, and there's no WhatsApp, there's no explanation coming to you. I think it's highly unprofessional, and it says a lot to you about respect, because time is about respect. And if they don't respect your time, it clearly says they don't respect you either. So that shouldn't be a place where you should be desperate to go and work in. So as desperate as you are for a job, it's probably easier to just simply say, okay, you know what, that one wasn't for me. I'll try the next one.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point that you and Val are raising, patience. People need to know, yes, desperation might force you to take on things that you would normally wouldn't stomach. But even in that setting, especially as women, because, you know, sometimes people can take advantage of people just because they look vulnerable. But if you know who you are and you know what kinds of values you espouse, that kind of behavior won't be acceptable to you. And you are within your rights to show it by leaving the environment. Yeah, it's very important.
Huda, I think, please say your name. You have your hand up. You want to say anything?
I can't hear you.
Huda? Okay.
Hello?
Hi, Huda. Your sound is very poor. Maybe you want to just type your question and we can try and respond. Sorry, we aren't hearing you well.
Huda, please just type your question and put it in the chat box and somebody will answer it for you. Okay, so it's 25, it's almost 25 past 11. That means we have 5 minutes left. So to everybody who came as an attendee, thank you so much. I hope you learned a lot of valuable nuggets or got a lot of valuable information from our panelists. Thank you so much to Mobile, Monet, Patience, Val, Elaine, and Karima for coming in today and just sharing all of their valuable knowledge and imparting so many words of wisdom upon us all. We really, really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you next week at our final event in the series. I'm going to put in the chat box the link, and it will lead you to a form that you can just give us advice or ask any further questions that you may have or come up with, and those questions at the end of the series will be forwarded to the panelists and they'll answer them for you. If you did not receive if you don't receive an email, please check your primary and your spam mailboxes for a confirmation email. And if you still don't have one, then please email me. My email address, I will drop it down below for you. That's my email address. Please feel free to attend next week. Just sign up. There will be another link in the confirmation email that will be sent to you to sign up for the next event. Thank you once again to the panelists. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Val, for allowing us to use your Zoom. We'll miss you next week, but don't worry, next week we have another panelist who is from Uganda. So I hope the Ugandan ladies will bring all their friends to come and show their support. And the members of the alumni leaders will be sticking around behind after this event just to note any questions that you might have that are burning right now. Feel free to leave. Thank you.
Thank you, Aka. It really was enjoyable. And yes, everybody handled themselves so admirably. We really look forward to next week. Monet, are you saying something? No.
Last week, what we did, the panelists just stayed on just so that we could see if there's anything that we can, just to do a debrief. So maybe just stay on. I don't know if Monet was talking then. Maybe she might have been saying that.
Oh, okay.
Few minutes.
Okay.
Waja.
Kimangoja.
Kids. Someone chewing this, and I'm like, maybe I'm hungry. That's why.
That's why you're hearing voices.
I don't know. I think everyone is. Are people still there? Oh, we still have 23 participants, so we have to wait a bit.
there's just a question in here. If it was an exploratory interview, is it advisable to get back to the interviewers to obtain feedback?
You mean feedback on how you performed in the interview, or what?
Maybe feedback in terms of what happens next, because remember it's an exploratory interview, so they want to know, is there anything else? People are just chatting, they want to know, just get a sense of who you are. I think typically that's what happens in exploratory interviews.
I would imagine if it's an exploratory interview, they will tell you that, you know, we'll let you know should something, you know,
firm come up.
So I think unless you think they should have told you, then I wouldn't contact them, because they're the ones who are exploring. They should let me know. Unless something says to you, they should have followed up. I don't know what that would have been, but yeah, but generally they will tell you.
So just linked to that question, I have a question which I think people might be keen to hear the answer, which is linked to following up. So let's say you've been to an interview and the recruiter is an internal, you know, lots of organizations have internal recruiters. And you've been for the interview and they normally will say to you, somebody will get back to you. Normally, you know, if you've got an agent, they'll say, okay, talk to your agent afterwards. When you have an internal recruiter, what happens? Because I find so what should one do in that instance? Do you call them to say, okay, so any feedback for me? Or do you just wait indefinitely for the feedback to come, if it ever comes?
Patience, if they've actually said it, that they will give you feedback, I think it's within your rights to then say, I've been waiting, you haven't, you know, come back to me, what is happening? And also, I just think from a personal point of view as well, and I think it's just a good way of behaving, if I can call it that, is to let people know if they want to know. And also, if you have promised, you must keep your promise and call them back. Because as we were saying, this is a two-way thing. So you can't just sit there when you promised and then the person is sitting there stewing, wondering why you're not talking to them. I think it's just bad practice. And also, the difficult part is when you have negative feedback. You know, it's difficult when it's an external person. But when it's internal person applying and it's an internal person interviewing, it's easy to then look out, you know, give them pointers for development. You know, these are the areas where you need to develop. But when it's external people, it becomes sensitive in the sense, and it also becomes difficult because it might be 10 people. Are you going to do that with 10 people? Are you going to do that with 20 people? So it becomes a difficult one with external people. But if you are asked and if you have promised, I think you better keep the promise and let the people know.
Thank you for answering for it. I think it is very important for people to, for the folks that are still on the line, to know that unfortunately what I've seen and it's been other people's experience is that many companies just don't get back to people. They get back to the person that they do want and everybody else is left hanging. So you're left hanging for months on end. You don't know, did I get the job? Did I not get the job? What happened? There's absolutely no feedback. So it's bad practice. And I mean, I'm not sitting in a recruitment sort of space. So I think Mopile's got a hand up. Maybe she sits in that kind of environment. She can maybe give us a sense of what her view is. Thanks, Mopile.
Thank you. So I just wanted to say, in terms of the feedback, yes, we do need to get back to candidates in terms of the feedback. Most of the companies, though, what I have observed is that they get back very quickly to the one that they want to appoint and want to pursue, to the candidate that fills the role. And then at a later stage, once they've completed the process, they then give feedback. And essentially the feedback wouldn't necessarily be a phone call personally and letting you know that you have not been successful, but rather just an email, a generic email, unfortunately, just letting you know that you have not been selected for the position. So in some cases, they do honestly wait until they've completed the entire process and appointed the person, because you may find that we also want to keep options open to a certain extent. and we don't want to find ourselves closing up the pool and then saying, no, you have not been selected. Meanwhile, actually, then the person we wanted to is now saying, actually, I'm not interested. So it's also, it's a balancing act, or a balancing act also for the employer, to be honest, because we're trying to not close ourselves off to the talent pool, and again, appoint the right candidates, which then also does have an impact on the candidate experience as well.
It's awesome that you mentioned the fact that sometimes companies want to keep their options open, which I think is also quite, it's interesting, but it's also a little bit sad because they know who they want. And then what happens, they extend an offer, the offer isn't good enough, that preferred candidate declines. Then they start saying, okay, so who was second and third and fourth best? Where else can you go? Yeah, it's sad, but I think I've listened to a number of radio shows where people talk about the fact that recruiters just don't get back to people. And I don't know if that's just common practice these days, but I just think it's rude. Just let a person know you're under no obligations to hire a person, but just afford them that courtesy to say you were unsuccessful. You don't have to give reasons. You were unsuccessful for the position. They move on, because otherwise, when people are desperate, they're holding on for hope, saying, okay, they haven't yet called, so let me wait. And yeah, I think that's quite unfair. But it happens.
The other practice is that people will write it in the advert.
In the ad, yes.
The advert at the
to
bottom.
Say if you haven't heard from us in 2 weeks' time. If you haven't
heard from us, you know, that's how they cover it mostly.
Yeah.
So in a way, those who've done that will have covered themselves. So you will know if they don't contact me within 2 weeks, then I'm out.
True.
Or within a month, then I'm out.
True.
But yeah, but I get your point about the unfairness of leaving people hanging without letting them know. It's rude. It is in fact rude.
I think maybe, sorry, I think maybe the other thing is, as someone who's on the market, it's okay to have your options as well. You know, sometimes you come across as desperate when you're holding on to that one opportunity that called you for an interview and now you're following up endlessly. It's okay for you to have options. It's okay for you to keep applying. It's okay for you to entertain more employers at the same time, because it really does give you options. And then you don't find yourself following up on that one all the time and eventually getting to a point where you're just sad and depressed because you've been holding on to this one opportunity and it's not materializing. It's another story, of course, when it's the one opportunity that you really want, the organization that you really want to join. Of course, then that brings in another dynamic. But I mean, it's always okay for you to have your options. And if people call you and they want you to come for another interview, go for that interview, explore, learn from the interviews as well, which is also another opportunity for you to just fine tune yourself, get those nerves right. The more interviews you go to, the more exposure you get, and the more you eventually grow in being interviewed, for that matter, which is strange, but it honestly does happen. It's exposure, meeting new people as well, and learning new ways of being interviewed is also a pro or a positive thing to look at when you're on the job market.
You know, Nqobile, you make me think about the issue of, you know, the one job that you really want is the one that declines you. And that can be devastating. However, my experience has been, well, talking about myself personally, is that one that I thought was the one may not necessarily have been, because other things have happened subsequently where I got something even better. So I think as human beings, we need to learn that sometimes that is a saving grace for you, because maybe you would have gotten that job and you would have been so unhappy. And then you would have exposed yourself to the options that you're talking about, because there always are options. Okay, at this point in time, things are a bit tight now in the market, but generally there are always other options. And we need to almost, if we can impart this to our kids or other people coming up who are looking for jobs, that it won't be the end of the world. Some people will reject you and it will be their loss if you are the right candidate. But guess what? Something else is going to come up and you will soon learn that it's even a better option. And it happens many times. In fact, I can tell you stories about myself. So it has happened right through my life. So I know it because I've lived it. But people who haven't lived it can it can really be devastating. And people want to do things to themselves just because this one organization didn't want them. You know, it's sad. It's sad.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Okay,
I love this panel, and I love being here. So it's a pity we're gonna, I wish we could actually extend ourselves and give more of these kinds of talks to other up and coming people and professionals who are, traversing this very difficult terrain. And because we are seasoned and we've seen these things, we can help them. And maybe there's a way after this that we can continue helping people. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's so critical for kids coming up to know these things.
And we talk about just critical for kids. I think it's critical for everyone at every phase, as long as you're still looking to be employed, to work. I think it's critical for everyone, because one of the things I wanted to say, that even with the best made intentions, with all the practice, with everything, things can still go wrong on the day of the interview. Yeah. And the important thing is not to beat yourself up, because you could have practiced all you want, and then they throw you a curveball in terms of a question, and it completely throws off all your good intentions, all your practice, and you end up not giving off your best that day because something's happened, or if you have to drive, or your internet just does something, it just rattles you. And yes, you can try your best to gather yourself, but we're human beings first and foremost. So the important thing is, linked to what you said, Elaine, is that even if you're rejected, don't take it that it's rejection for life. It just was that particular opportunity that wasn't perhaps appropriate at that point in time. And as Mobile said, you learn from that experience. I messed up here. I could have answered that question differently. So next time you make sure that question you really rehearse, so that you at least, you've got your prepared story, you tweak it just to suit that particular circumstance, but you practice. But yeah, I think it's not to get yourself so downhearted and distressed because one company turned you down. That's life, eh? You dust yourself off and you keep on going.
True.
Yes, yeah. And I also like to add, similar to what Mobile said, I often say in my private space, it's a numbers game, as an applicant. At times, sit down, draft your targets. For example, when you're making your applications on a daily basis, even keep your records to see what's happening, even from the recruiter space, that the more your applications are out there, the more you're going to maximize your chance of being invited for interviews. And the more interviews you attend, in that month alone, you might end up with 2 or 3 more offers that you can actually select from. So from your own personal space, have that approach that I'm working with statistics. For so many applications, this is the outcome of the interviews. This is the outcome of where to get myself to the offer stage. We do understand that from an entry-level place, at times you graduate and you do not have access to this kind of information. But as we, growing in our career spaces, often have that view that chances of me sending out 1 application or 2 or 3, I might not hear anything from the organizations where I've sent my applications to. So always look into your numbers, how many applications that I've sent, and prepare for those as well. As you're applying, prepare for the screening as well. So before the interview, there's a possibility of a telephonic screening, which it's possibly, at times is equivalent to an interview, because that person wants to qualify you and shortlist you for the meeting. So once you know that you are in that space, you are in the market, prepare yourself from that place when you make a decision that I am applying for opportunities.
Margaret has a hand up. Margaret, go ahead. You're on mute, Margaret.
Maybe just drop it into the chat box, Margaret. We can't hear you.
Okay, it was just really, I just wanted give a vote of thanks. I'm really, really so grateful to all of you, the panelists, even the organizers. This has been amazing so far. It's really changed the way we look at, the whole CV preparation. It's changed the way we look at the interview process, and really are looking forward to the last session as well. So it was more of just saying thank you for giving of yourselves and sharing all.
Always a pleasure.
You are welcome.
Thank you very, very much. We enjoyed it, I think, as much as you enjoyed it.
Yes.
Shall we close it there and move on to the debriefing session?
Sure.